Yo, D-Bot, what's up, dude?
Yo, what's going on, man?
Oh, man, this is kind of like Groundhog Day every year. This is our Dodgers Obit 2022.
Yeah.
Subtitle Decade of Disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, do we get tired of expecting them to win a World Series and they don't? With the exception of 2020, like this is just it's always a freaking tragedy with them, man.
It is, man, and I don't know what to say at this point. You know, it's like the season begins and you're like hoping for the best, and you're like, yeah, if we kind of like make the playoffs, you kind of like set your expectations at like a decent level.
Mm-hmm.
But then they have this run that they had this season, and you're just kind of like, why not? Why not go to the World Series,
Mm-hmm.
Why not? But then we've been kind of doing that, I think, especially during the prime Kershaw years. It was kind of like, why not? Kershaw's the best pitcher. Why not,
Get and Hall of Famer, of course.
Yeah, and then obviously the results happen, and then we're just like, yeah, I guess not.
So what you just said there, it makes me feel like, Donald, it's my fault. Because I expect them to win the World Series as stacked as they are every year. I expect them to win a division every year. I expect them to be in the NLCS. I expect them to hopefully get to the World Series and win that World Series. Like so Donald, you're pretty much saying it's my fault. I should know better because I'm involved in a toxic relationship with the Dodgers.
With the Dodgers,
they're gonna disappoint me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we all get hyped about it, so I think we're all at fault here, man. I don't know what to say, man. It's just
don't blame the hitters for not being able to hit.
Yeah, right.
Scoring position. Don't blame Dave Roberts for making a bad bullpen decision when they had the lead. Don't blame them. It's not their fault. It's our fault.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think that I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know. This was the most embarrassing one out of all of them, though. Like, come on, man. We were like at the
I don't
top.
know, man. That the one against the Nats was pretty tough too. I mean, but the Nats did go on to win the World Series. It's just that whole riding high, that playing hot at the right time. That one stung a lot too, because that one felt like they were a team of like kind of misfits. I mean, besides like the Strasburg, and was it the Howie Kendrick who came through for them? It's like, who is this guy? Like, come on. So that one to me stung probably the most out of all these exits. I mean, we can pick 1 through 10 which one hurts the most. We can rank a top 10 of which one hurts the most in order. But I mean 1 through 9, right? Let's be honest. I call it a decade of disappointment because they've won the division, 9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times they've been ousted in the postseason, with the exception of 2020. And I think what really hurts me from this exit is the expectation for them to not win in a shortened season, because they get so much flack for, oh, you guys won in 2020. It was a shortened season and anybody can ball out for 60 games, right, Verdugo? Yeah. Anybody can do that except your Boston Red Sox, except 29 other teams that didn't ball out for those 60 games. It was the Dodgers who did, but yet you're gonna call them a Mickey Mouse championship, a Mickey Mouse champions, until they win in 162 games, and that's weak, but it's okay criticism. I'll take that. I'll let you guys have that excuse for your team not winning that year, but the Dodgers don't make an excuse for when they get ousted. I mean,
no,
the Dodgers. I mean, as much as I want to say they lost to a good Padres team, they lost to a hot Padres team while the Dodgers were just riding a cold streak. So it was just like that perfect storm of the Dodgers were cold, couldn't pick it up, couldn't get hot at the right time, and the Padres were just riding a wave of heat, right, going into that series. Yeah. What did you think going into that series, and what was your takeaways from that in LDS, Donald?
The offense definitely was the one that blew it for the whole team. When you have Freddie Freeman, when you have Mookie Betts and Trea Turner at the top, you expect something to happen. It didn't happen. And I think one of the things I just don't 100%, especially that's why I said this one is the most embarrassing one to me, is that we've been beating the Padres all season long.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that people always say, and we always say this, it's always like, but do you win when it matters? Which is kind of funny that like we say that all the time. And it's a cliche, but I think for the most part, we say it to feel better. But it's just kind of insane to think that you beat this team, I don't how many times they face them, like 16 or more than that. Like you probably lost twice to them in the whole season. And then the postseason happens, and then like the 2 games you needed to beat them, or at least 1 game to keep it alive, you just don't. And now you go home. And it's just kind of like head scratching that this team did that. And I don't know what to say outside of just like it's just mind blowing and numbing. It's not like the Padres were running up the numbers on runs on you to say like, oh man, they're going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-0, and that's it. Like they blew you out. It's just like they were in it, and for whatever reason, these bats were just really, really, really underwhelming and disappointing. And I mean, I'm sure you and I are in a text chat, and I'm sure there's like a bunch of text chats in our phones that were just like all in this weird like breaking news situation when the elimination actually happened. Right. And it was just kind of like everybody wanted answers right away, because it's just like, how do you not go 5 games? And given the talent, given the stacked roster and everything, I mean, I don't know what to say outside of just it's like a terrible drop off,
Right.
And again, like I want to blame everybody. I want to blame like the bats. I want to blame Justin Turner and Chris Taylor and Muncy for not, like coming through at least to show some sort of sign of life. Right? They went, I think, as much as like 0 for 20 in running, runners in scoring positions, and it's just kind of disappointing to see that, man. And I feel like for the past couple seasons, it always felt like that. Like it always felt like they couldn't bring it home. They can't bring anyone home. And we always talked about the hitting coach and everything. And I don't know what else to say. I really don't. And I don't want to sound like a old record and, make it sound like I'm super sad or anything. But it's just kind of odd that, I get this invested in the team. And then it's just like this kind of a performance. It's not like you fought hard and beat them, or they beat you after like a 18 inning thing or anything like that. Like Seattle's run was way more enticing and more intriguing to watch. You know what I mean? Like they had the Astros up in the first 2 games and they blew both of them, and then in the last one they went all out. And I mean, it felt like a good story. At least you felt like, hey, you know what? They did their best, and they made the Astros really work for it. And this one, it just felt like there was a lot of just weird tension and a lot of weird pressure they put on themselves. For what reason, I don't know. This was a team you should have been able to take care of, because no one in the media is really talking about the Padres like that, and not because they're a small market. It's just because really, it's like really like they're like no one's really expecting much out of them, but
because they're a small market.
But yeah, I just don't know what else to say, and I don't want to do the whole Dave Roberts thing, because obviously I saw this today that Andrew Freeman, confirmed that he is coming back. So like for all the fans that were like wishing he was gone, it's not going to happen. And we'll see how this goes. I mean, I think for the most part, his biggest error was the whole 7th inning mid at bat. Right. That I just felt like, oh shoot, like that actually happened. And it's funny because I was in Vegas over the weekend. I was in Vegas. I was at the Wynn Hotel, watching the game in the betting area of the sports betting book area. And when they were up 3-0, I was just like, man, like this feels like this is it. Like we're going to game 5. It was like 4th inning, 5th inning. I was just like, all right. And then I go play a couple slots at the end of the 6th. And then that's when I decide to drive to the hotel. And I know that I'm in Vegas, so I know that there is no LA radio nearby. So I know that they're on the iHeart station, the 570 AM on the iHeart app. So shout out to Clipper Pablo for that, for the plug. And so I decided I listened to Rick Monday, Charlie Steiner, and then that's the 7th innings when I'm driving on the strip on the way back to the hotel, and I see and I hear what's happening, and I'm just kind of like, what is going on? There's traffic on the strip. I'm annoyed, and it was just like, and then part of me was annoyed, and I was like, no, they're gonna come back. They gotta at least tie it, let's go extra innings at least. And then I I get to the hotel just to see them just really. It felt like nothing was gonna happen at the 8th inning. I kind of knew it. I was like, and I know you texted me like, "Do you want to just record now?" And I'm just, and I was really considering it because I was just like, "Yeah, I might as well just kind of get it over
While the
with."
emotions were raw.
Yeah, and I was just like, man, but I knew in the 9th inning that it was over. Like going into the 9th,
Well,
I was like,
I knew in the 7th it was over.
Yeah, I was just like, this is not coming. They're not coming back because the Dodgers don't rally back, and that's not who they are. It'd be dope if that was their identity, but it's not their identity.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what thoughts you have outside of what I said, or if there's anything that you think. I know a lot of people are predicting like future things, like as far as like players on contracts and things like that, and what this roster will look like next season, or at least like a rough sketch of it.
I mean, yeah, that's going to be key is the additions and subtractions to the roster in the offseason. But going back to what you said about Dodgers versus Padres during the regular season, the Dodgers went 14 for 5 against the Padres this year. They finished 22 games ahead of them in the division. So on paper, this team, the Padres, have no business beating the Dodgers in 5 games. You would think the Dodgers would have at worst given up 1 game to them. At worst. Was the opposite. But what the biggest stat that tells you why the series was going to go this way, no matter who it was, either the Padres, the Mets, didn't matter. Even the Phillies, if they would have got reseeded to play the Dodgers in that round, the Dodgers averaged 5 runs a game prior to them clinching the division. Average, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, they explode for more, but after they clinched the best record of Major League Baseball, they averaged 3 runs a game. So they went from 5 down to 3. And if you look at the average of what they scored in the DS, it was 3 runs. So that tells you their offense just took their foot off the gas going into the postseason. So no matter who they would have faced in the DS, and if they would have gotten past anybody in the DS, in the CS, their offense just wasn't the same after they kind of felt they got the job done, which to me, that actually is a managerial issue. That means that their leadership isn't telling them like, hey, job's not done. Keep your foot on the gas. Stay hot. Stay ready. And is it this thing where you overmanage and you try to give your guys rest? They deserve rest, right? But rest can also turn to rust. So this is, I mean, there's no perfect formula. Like, I've seen some criticism saying that Dave Roberts is a manager built for the regular season, not the postseason. What manager is built for the postseason? Like it's a different game. Like, you don't manage it the same way, yes, but there's no manager who like, that guy knew how to manage in the postseason. Is it like a Joe Torre type who had that amazing stack lineup with the Yankees? And even then, they only won. Well, with Joe Torre, what did they win? 4 out of 9. 4 out of 9, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So that's still technically a losing record, but yet he's the best playoff manager of a recent era, right? I'm not going back further. Just this is what I can remember off the top of my head. But so all this to say, like what you brought up earlier about you would have preferred they fight like the Seattle Mariners did. Yes, that's very true. I would have preferred they fight like the Seattle Mariners did. They just didn't seem to have fight in them. Like the bats just didn't show up. I mean, you got to give credit to the Padres because they executed when they needed to execute, but at the same time, they only scored 5 runs a game, which is what the average was for the Dodgers prior to them clinching. And we've seen their offense turn up a lot more. Mm-hmm. So that offense should have been potent enough to put up 6 runs a game. Yeah. If you were to tell me going into that NLDS, the Padres are going to average 4 to 5 runs a game, take that, right?
Yeah.
You take that. Yeah. I think that your Dodger offense is going to come through.
Yeah.
So after it happened, after that bottom of the 7th, I'm like you. I'm like, okay, game 5, we're still in it. We'll see what happens. Still a little worried, honestly, because the offense wasn't showing up. From game 2 on, the offense didn't show up.
Yeah.
When they came back or when they put up that offense in game 1, you think, okay, they're aware that's the postseason. But when they gave up those 3 runs at the end of game 1, toward the end of game 1, it kind of like, there's a little bit. The Padres are here to play, but we'll come through with some offense. And they only muster up 3 runs in that game 2 loss. It's like that offense is is going to be absent. It just has a feeling where this offense is going to be absent. And and lo and behold, that's the way it went the rest of the series. Yeah. And that's why they've had such early exits where this offense just does not show up in the postseason. I mean, you can look back at some postseason blunders with the bullpen, and it's always going to be if your offense is ready, if your bullpen is ready in the postseason. And do you say it's the man? Like, how much can you blame the manager at the end of the day? Like, how much can you blame them over and over? How much can you blame the front office for spending so much money and trying to buy a championship? Of course you want your team to spend money and bring in the best players. Of course you do. Like, how dare you say, I don't like the Dodgers because they try to buy their championships. You wish your team would spend money to try to win you a championship. Like, come on. How can you criticize them for that? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm just, when everything happened, I was just so numb. So I'll to answer your question, like, because I've been here before. I've seen this show already. I know they're going to disappoint me in October. I don't get surprised anymore. I just get more and more disappointed. Right?
Yeah. I think when the elimination actually happened, I think the thing I texted in the group was like, I thought this was going to feel worse, and for some reason it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of felt like they shot themselves in the foot. Like you said, the offense didn't show up. That was a huge part for me too. That was like, it's like the loss happens, the elimination happens, and then all these like thoughts come to your head as to what happened. And then I do remember like thinking about like, oh yeah, that's right. Like in the last two series, they kind of just phoned it in. And even on the podcast, we almost didn't even touch it. Like, because it wasn't exciting, because it felt like, oh yeah, they don't really care at this point. So why should we talk about it in a way where they don't even, like, we can't match that energy that they don't even have. So it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, so I guess when this series started, it was just like, oh wow, I guess it kind of just really bled over. Like you mentioned, that all that just spilled over into the postseason, which wasn't good. And that's that you had the bye and you had time to prepare and all this stuff. And that's why with Dave Roberts, I was kind of like, well, the only issue I feel like happened was just that he did the seventh inning switch with the pitchers, but that was about it. I can't even say like he did more than that felt like he cost the game to anybody. I just think that that's the only thing that was kind of glaring. Other than that, it's just like the hitters are supposed to hit. They should know what to do. But yeah, I thought about all the red flags after the elimination. Them kind of phoning it in the last couple of series before the season ended. Bellinger eventually getting demoted out to bench, like, which was to me a huge one after the fact. I was like, wow, I guess that should have told us something. And yeah, just like, I can't blame the pitching, because the pitching, for it being against the Padres, they did what they could. Tyler Anderson was amazing. Like, he was really, really good. I wasn't expecting him to look like that in a game 4 situation, elimination game situation. Gonsolin, obviously, in the second inning, I kind of felt like, oh, dude, this guy's like nervous. He's hella nervous. Again, what the Padres did with the whole ticket, geo-blocking and all that. I mean, when you're going up, Gonsolin, I don't think was really ready for that much of a crowd. I think had it been Kershaw, would have been better, because he's already been there. But obviously we wanted Kershaw in the second game because, we're trying to knock out these games as soon as we can. We're trying to we're trying to get this team taken care of. So that's I understand where Dave Roberts went with that lineup instead. But it's funny how like we predicted that in the last podcast, that if they were going to drop one at home, it was going to be the Kershaw one. Game. But it was almost like, but we weren't hoping that it was going to be like the beginning of the end for the whole thing.
Going into this, remember we even said like, where's their rotation for the postseason?
Yeah, they never did like
just 1 and 2. It was just, we only had a for sure 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Number 3 was probably, they should have put Anderson number 3. They should have flipped it this way. Then we probably would have won game 3 and then maybe dropped game 4 and then been able to go back for game 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is all hindsight, obviously 2020, which is why also they went he went with Tony Connolly over or Canale, right?
Canale, I believe is yeah.
And instead of Evan Phillips, who's been pretty shut down for them.
Yeah.
So, because they want to save him for a potential 9th inning save. And so once again, like, why wouldn't you go with a hotter hand? I mean, it's just, it's just over analytical, I suppose. But I mean, over analytics gets you 111 wins.
Yeah.
So that it's for something, but it just doesn't translate for the postseason, and that's where we go back to, like, you got to get a manager for the postseason. Like, do you sub it out? Do you sub him out?
Yeah, right.
Like, who do you bring him in? Like, it's just I don't know where
I get it.
How you go back to the drawing board. And like I said, like you, I'm like same like you. Like every year the Dodgers, and this is a decade of now saying this. Every year the Dodgers get eliminated, it makes me not like sports more. Like it's like it just like the way stress adds like a gray hair to you. You know how you could say that? Like my head is full of gray hair.
Yeah.
Over this Dodger, like my head of like not loving sports. Gets like added a gray hair, but at the end of the day, opening day, where will I be? Right back at Dodger Stadium.
That's true.
Because I will have time to have forgotten the misery that I'm feeling right now. Just the complete, like I said, I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
And I'll forget this disappointment and have a rejuvenated new hope after, the Astros win the World Series again, and it's going to be disgusting.
It's going to be bad.
And we'll be there just to try to pick up the pieces, right? To try to figure out, because we'll have a whole new looking Dodger team, right? Yeah. This will be a team without Justin Turner, a team without Trey Turner, a team maybe without Kershaw, a team that's going to have a new bat in the lineup with Aaron Judge, a team that's going to be just all new stacked lineup. Did you catch that, Donald? I don't know if you caught that.
A whole new bot team. We'll buy this new team again.
We're gonna have to buy Aaron Judge to hopefully get some pop in the lineup, and we won't boo him when he strikes out in the postseason 5 straight times. Come to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, man. I saw that Nahum posted a good meme on Instagram. Where he it had the fan with the clown hair at Dodger Stadium. Like, this is where I'll be on opening day.
Yeah. Like, shout out to Nahum, man. That's so true. That's what we're just saying, right? Like, opening day, we'll kind of forget them. We're just right back in the relationship with the Toxica right here, the LA Dodgers. That's us, man.
Yeah.
But it's the hope that kills us every time. We get a rejuvenated hope come Thursday. Yeah. When our LA Galaxy still in the playoffs.
Yes.
Home playoff game. This past weekend, while you were in Vegas, you were
driving to Vegas. Yeah,
man, dude, I was ready to go check out that game live, and I'm like, do I do it? Do I pull the trigger on some tickets? I gotta see if D-Bot's down to roll. When you said you weren't going to be in town, I'm like, well, it's going to be a home watching game, and oh my god, I was stressed. I was that day was going to be a long one for my liver because I had the Galaxy at 12, the Dodgers Padres at 5:30 that night, so I was prepped. I had the booze ready because I knew I needed to numb some of this pain. So luckily, when that Dodger elimination happened, I was nice and numb for it for the whole day of drinking. But the LA Galaxy, man, they looked really good against Nashville. Did you catch any of those highlights?
Yeah, I did. I watched the highlight from the MLS YouTube. So I did see the Galaxy looked like they were really in control. It felt like they kind of had their way with this team, with this Nashville team, which was kind of surprising given like how close they were in ranking. And I think that the two takeaways, obviously, to me were like the first goal from Chicha that got called back, which they didn't really explain, I guess, because the thing is the highlights didn't have the commentary. So it's just straight what happened in the game raw. So like I saw that the ref was going to look at, I thought he was going to look at the onside of Chicha, which he was onside, but then it turned out that there was a foul that wasn't called, which was kind of head scratching to me. Like, do they do that now? Like they'll disallow it because they missed a foul call in the way back or something. Like,
well, I think it's that foul opened up a pass for the transition.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they called it back. Like, you guys, like the Galaxy got an advantage because of that foul.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because there was no commentary, so I didn't know, and it was just like the highlights were just kind of thrown in. They didn't even do the transitions right on the highlights.
Of course, they never do.
They just cut from one thing to the other, and you're just kind of like, okay. But yeah, then I saw the goal from Arahu at the 60th minute. That was really cool to see.
That was a clean goal.
Yeah, man. I feel like I haven't seen a goal like that from the Galaxy, like since like Zlatan days, where like it was a nice cross into the head.
Yeah.
None of this kind of like weird, ticky tack. Like, oh shoot, it just happened to be that he was in the right spot and it just went in. Outside of Pooch, who like figures out a way to drill it and
fires
it just
his rockets from just outside the box.
Yeah, that's the only time that's like, oh wow, that's like really impressive. Other than that, it's like, okay, like it was an obvious white shot that was about to go in because the goalie was not gonna get there on time. So this was really cool to see. It felt like a very cool like highlight goal to watch.
Yeah,
and yeah, for the most part, yeah, that's what I saw in the highlights. It looked good. The Galaxy looked good. I hope they carry that momentum over. So.
Yeah, in watching that game too, before that Chicha goal was disallowed, Nashville had a goal that went in, but before it went in, it was waved off for a foul inside the box, which was a really light foul, which the commentators mentioned that they shouldn't have called that and let the play happen, and then looked back at it in VAR, and they would have said that wasn't enough to call a foul, and that goal should have been allowed. So I found that kind of interesting. This was early, like in the 20-something minute or so, definitely in the first half. And so that kind of felt like, oh, that's kind of like some bad juju going toward the Galaxy way.
Yeah.
Where they gave up a goal that that didn't count, but maybe should have counted and kind of could come back to bite them.
Yeah.
So once that Chicha goal happened and was called off, I'm like, okay, we're even now. We're like, like we're balanced out the bad vibes and the good vibes here. Like we're even now, right? So. And then right before that Julian Araujo goal, he took a shot from outside the box that was sort of a cross pass, a cross pass shot, and it curved, and it was one of those shots where we're like, oh, that's kind of going toward the goal, but is he like passing to somebody? We're like, it's curving, it's still going on goal, and the ref the goalkeeper wasn't getting to it. So it's like, that might go in. And then it hit the post and went out. So it was just one of those, like, like you kind of see it in slow motion as it's happening. So I'm like, wow, that might go in. Oh, it hit the post.
Oh, dang.
So it's just so close where I'm so glad he got his goal later. Where like he deserved that. That was such like a clever shot pass kind of looking deal. And I was really impressed by that from him just minutes earlier, and then that cross in the box happens, and he scores that beautiful header. So like you mentioned, it was good. You didn't see it in the highlights, but yes, the Galaxy did completely have the possession. They had all the momentum in that game. They just dictated the pace, and they look like a team that's got some momentum, very similar to what the Padres had going into the Dodgers series. So this kind of gives me, this is where being a sports fan is so horrible, because now it gives me that little bit of hope when they go on to face this LAFC team. Who are they? Supporter Shield winners. Best team of the MLS, best team of MLB. What happens when you kind of let that happen, right? Like a team that's been given a break versus a team that's riding a hot streak.
Yeah.
We just saw what happens in the NLDS. Does it translate over to MLS second round, Donald? What do you think?
Oh, man, I hope so. I think for the sake of the Galaxy, I hope it does. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be huge on Thursday. I saw that the ticket prices are really up there. But yeah, man, I'm really hoping that the Galaxy pull it off. It would be a cool upset for me. But yeah, I kind of am a little nervous as to what this LAFC team is going to bring to the table. So hopefully they're as cold as the Dodgers bats. But if they're not, man, that's going to be tough. But again, I think that this Galaxy team should be able to handle the crowd. I don't think the atmosphere should get to them too much. So we'll see how they go. And I think that Chicha, I believe this is his moment, He's really this season had embraced everything he's done, and yeah, I mean, again, the disallowed goal, I was kind of made me think like, oh man, like he really wanted that, because I saw how he celebrated right afterwards, and it felt very like, oh man, like you really want to be like the guy, which is great because we need that. But yeah, it'd be crazy how far the Galaxy go if they make it past Thursday. Yeah,
that's a huge if.
That's a huge if for sure. And I really thought like, oh man, they're gonna only get like 4 days of rest. But I mean, I'm hoping that it kind of just makes them feel more empowered than tired. You know what I mean? So like in the NFL, like when they have when your team plays on Sunday and they have to do Thursday night, it sucks because you know your team's like tired. In football, for some reason, it doesn't work that way. You know, you don't get a jolt from a win on Sunday and then going into Thursday. If anything, it feels like a drag that you have to do that. You know,
right?
In baseball, it's the opposite. I feel like it kind of keeps you in a momentum that you need. I guess just because the way the schedule works out for baseball, there's like a rhythm, and it happens to be like you need to be the closer you are to playing, then the better versus waiting a long period of time. So, yeah, hopefully the MLS is somewhere in the middle of that, if not closer to baseball.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting. This is what their fourth meeting this year because they had the home and home, and then they had the Open Cup matchup. So, and the Galaxy are 2-1 against LAFC this year. So this is the fourth time playing against them. This is only the second meeting in the playoffs between these two, and it was also in the second round. You remember LAFC won that one, right? It was a 5-3 win where they ousted Zlatan.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
Yeah, that was huge, man. That was really huge. And so who needs this win more, the Galaxy or LAFC?
That's tough.
Be unbiased here.
No, I am unbiased. I am thinking very unbiased. Obviously, for the LAFC, I feel like with the kind of run they've had, Supporter Shield, being at the top of the West, like they have to make the MLS final. I think if not, then they're going to get the same criticism that the Dodgers got. It's going to feel in that same vein. But then for the Galaxy, I feel like it would prove not just the LA thing, but I think it'd be good for Chicharito because I know he's coming back next season. So now it'll feel more hopeful, like it'll feel more empowering to come back. And then hopefully the front office kind of realizes what they can improve on if there's something they need to improve on. Hopefully they don't feel like complacent and thinking like, oh, this team was great and this is how we built it, because the thing is that there are some players that people are tired of, I saw on Twitter that they said that when Cabral got subbed in that people were booing and stuff. And obviously, like, regardless of how you feel, whether you're like super analytical about soccer and all that, like the thing is like the crowd, from what I've learned in watching wrestling, the crowd does determine, what's entertainment. And that needs to be something you consider, instead of making the crowd feel like dumb about like not knowing, when it's like, dude, clearly they just don't like this person, whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like it is a bigger deal for LAFC though, and I feel like it would mean a lot more to the franchise if they do it, because I feel like I know that they're not just fighting for, bragging rights to LA, but they are fighting for like viability for the franchise. Like was it worth it to build a second team in LA? Things like that. I think that's more their goal, is like, we want to look like we're worth having here and whatnot. So I think that's what it is. And I think for the MLS too, I think because then it'll make MLS think like, oh, so this is why expansion teams are needed or something, So I kind of feel like it's more for like LAFC, but that's kind of weird me saying that, given that like they're so dominant, you know what I mean? So it's like it would mean more for them to advance than Galaxy. Galaxy would just kind of do the whole like, hey, you know what? No one really thought we were going to be here. So, we did more. We kind of exceeded the expectation. That's what I think. So,
yeah, this whole exceeding expectations and setting expectations, right? Like going into the NLDS, the pressure was more on the Dodgers to get past the Padres.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
In this scenario, the pressure is more on LAFC to make good on these big offseason or these big summer transfers in Gareth Bale and Chiellini, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they went out and they made a huge splash. Like, they're already in the top of the Supporter Shield race, and they've added to their roster even more so, and it didn't pay off initially.
Yeah.
But they were able to right the ship, so to speak, and still win the Supporters Shield. But well, I mean, what is a Supporters Shield really, right? It's a coaster without a cup. It's just you got to win this. You got to win the MLS Cup.
Yeah, that's what matters.
That's the most what matters, and that's what's the real pressure on. So look at the narratives here, right? Like, if LAFC wins, this will only be their second playoff win.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was their first one coming against Galaxy as well. How does that hurt Galaxy more so? Like they're a team that kind of wasn't supposed to even sometimes make the play. They look good, they have glimmers of hope, but yet then they faltered and were below the playoff line a lot of the season. Mm-hmm. So they got Push and Bergman. By mind you, they have LAFC didn't see those two midfielders the last time they played. So this should be an interesting matchup just for that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm not saying that they're the difference makers. Possibly they could possibly be, but it's just it's going to be a whole different matchup. This fourth matchup versus the other three that we saw, which had the Galaxy winning two of those three. So I mean, that's to say, like, does that same Galaxy team show up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does that strong Galaxy team show up? Because we would see them show up for some games and then not for other games.
Yeah.
But I think one thing is going to be for certain after this matchup. Whoever does win this matchup will lose in the next round.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's so much like emotion going into this game.
Yeah.
That there's no way there's going to be just this huge adrenaline dump afterwards.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be hard to get up for the next conference final against Austin or FC Dallas. You know, like how do you really show up for that one, knowing that you just beat your rival to keep your season alive, but wow, maybe we spent so much emotion there. Yeah. So I mean, I guess this would be another one where the pressure is again on LAFC to win in their house because they'll be at home hosting.
Yeah.
So I mean, just so all this being said, Donald, do you think the Galaxy win?
I think they do.
Wow.
I think they do. I'm expecting this to be a really intense game. Like I expect refs to have to really keep guys apart. In the Open Cup game, there was a lot of fighting that happened afterwards.
That's right.
And that's the kind of game I'm expecting. I'm expecting that it's going to be heated. So I don't know. I can't say it's going to be like a high scoring game. I can't say it's going to be like 3-2, anything like that, or 3-3, or what if we go to penalties? I think it'll probably be like, 3-1 or something, or like a 2-0 or 2-1. Just because I feel like there's going to be more intensity on the plane that I can't see both defenses giving up such easy goals or anything like that. I think they're going to go hard, and that's what I expect. I honestly would love for them to go to PKs though. I think it would
Don't say that.
It would just go. It would add to the drama, the tension, you gotta.
If they go to PKs, you are guaranteeing a win for LAFC because we will have Chicha trying to Panenka in PKs, and we all know how well that goes. And there's nobody on this team that could do PKs.
Yeah,
we have Chicha doing Panenkas for no freaking reason. We have Push who can't score PKs, but yet he should be taking it from outside the box and he'd score it. Yeah. I mean, it's just we have nobody unless we let the Costa go 10 times.
All 5.
That's the only way. That's the only way we'll have a chance to win on PKs. But no, I do not want any of that smoke. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful, and this is a hope that kills you, that the Galaxy will be able to get it done just because they are a completely different team than LA have seen from them this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's tough to go win in that environment.
Yeah.
We all know we give LAFC fans a lot of crap for being manufactured in plastic. So the way they have that stadium set up for them acoustically does trap all that sound in there and makes it feel louder and bigger than what it really is.
Yeah.
So it's like playing in a fun house of mirrors. It's gonna give you that illusion, much like Hollywood. It gives you an illusion. So they're Hollywood FC over there. So it just makes all the sense why it's a tough environment to play in. So it's not going to be easy, like you said. I'm very hopeful that they will win. LA Galaxy will win, but I don't think it's going to be a shutout. There has yet to be a shutout in any Trafico games. Fun fact.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be 2-1, 3-1 type of win. Why not make it a 5-3 win? LA Galaxy's favor this time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't see the LA Galaxy scoring 5 goals.
I know,
that
right?
would be great.
It would be great. I mean, someone would have to get the hat trick. So
that's gonna be a Cabral hat trick.
And then he stays.
Cabral is gonna get a goal in this game. Yeah, that's my hot take. Win or lose, Cabral gets a goal in this game. Cabral gets a goal, and then we'll stop booing him when he comes out to the pitch. Right. That was horrible. He got booed when he came on as a sub in that playoff game. It's a playoff game, guys. You can't boo your players in a playoff game.
Yeah.
It's just, that's not a good look. We all know Cabral needs to fix a lot of things, but you booing him right there is not helping him.
Yeah.
When he gets subbed off, it's okay to boo him there. But when he's subbing on, dude, you can't boo him there because he's coming in for a purpose, and that's just to stretch out the defense. So let him come in and do his job there, and cheer for him there. So it's gonna be intense. It's gonna be emotional. We're gonna get really emotional on Thursday, and hopefully we're gonna be trapped in a glass cage of good emotions after it's over.
Yeah.
But for 90 minutes, that's gonna be intense, man. And I can't wait.
For sure.
Oh man. I mean, Donald, I can't wait. I want it to start tomorrow. Honestly, I want it to happen right now as soon as we're done with this. But I'll get my body ready for Thursday. I'll get my liver ready for Thursday. But guys, that's it for us this week. See ya.
Later.